Ladies and gentlemen, very good evening. First of all, apologies for this long delay and the very late evening. Thank you very much for being present here. Actually, Foreign Secretary, who has kindly agreed to join us, has just come out of a meeting which is still going on, chaired by the Honorable Prime Minister, high-level meeting. Without wasting any further time, may I hand over the floor to Foreign Secretary for some initial remarks. And today, given the lateness of the hour, we'll just take a very few questions. Thank you.
Namaskar and good evening. As Joint Secretary XP has mentioned, we've just come out of a meeting which the Prime Minister chaired on the situation in Ukraine. The meeting began with an expression of deep regret and condolences on the tragic death of Sri Naveen Shekharappa Gyanagodar, Indian student who was studying in the Kharkiv National Medical University and who died earlier today. The Prime Minister conveyed his deep anguish on the loss of the life of an Indian national. As you can imagine, we remain very concerned about the situation in Kharkiv, Sumy and adjacent areas which are currently in a conflict zone. Earlier this afternoon, I separately called in the ambassadors of Russia and Ukraine. You would recall that the last time we had a briefing 2 days ago, I did convey to you that I had called in the ambassadors to emphasize to them the need for protection of our citizens, in particular students who are in the conflict zone. They had been given assurances in this regard. Today, I reiterated strongly our demand for urgent safe passage for all Indian nationals who are still in Kharkiv and other cities in the conflict area. As I had mentioned again last time, we have sent a team of officers from our mission in Moscow to the border region of Russia adjoining Ukraine. This team is currently in a city called Belgorod, which is not far from Kharkiv. The function of the team is to examine all the options in terms of, the route out, accommodation for our people, the transportation options. Essentially, this team is in place and ready to see whatever we can do to extract our students and citizens from the Kharkiv-Sumy area. We have, of course, reiterated our demand not just in Delhi, but also in both Moscow and Kiev, and we have done that both to diplomatic and the military authorities of both countries. Evacuation from Kharkiv is now our top priority. I had also mentioned that we had an estimated 20,000 Indian students in Ukraine at the time that we issued our first advisory. This is the general number of people who are Indian nationals in Ukraine. From that number, 12,000 approximately have since left Ukraine, which is 60% of the total number of our citizens in Ukraine. Of the remaining 40%, roughly half remain in the conflict zone in the Kharkiv-Sumy area, and the other half have either reached the western borders of Ukraine or are heading towards the western borders of Ukraine. In other words, they are generally out of the conflict areas, out of harm's way. Now in Kyiv, following the lifting of the curfew during the day yesterday and today, our mission had issued an advisory proposing that our students and community members leave Kyiv, use trains, use different options to leave Kyiv. I understand that since then, all of our nationals have left Kyiv. The information with us is that we have no more nationals left in Kyiv. Nobody has contacted us from Kyiv since. All our inquiries have revealed that each and every of our nationals have come out of Kyiv to the extent that we can tell you. I'm talking about citizens. We have also understand that another 1,400 of our citizens who were in this southern town called Zaporizhia, which is also in an expanding conflict zone, have also departed and moved towards the western borders of Ukraine. On the Moldova border, another 400 students have been able to cross through into Moldova and are in shelters there arranged by the MEA team that I had mentioned last time is in place in Chisinau, facilitating their movement from there to Bucharest. Even as we speak, the embassy office in Ukraine is being set up in Lviv, which will enable our embassy teams to spread out to the border areas of Ukraine with Poland, Slovakia, Hungary and Romania. The idea is that they will be there in person. They should be able to facilitate and assist our citizens who are trying to exit Ukraine into each of these countries and leave the conflict area. We have also sent additional teams. I think we have sent another 25 officers to all of these 4 missions neighboring Ukraine to supplement the very minimum staffing that we have in normal course. You are aware that the Prime Minister has sent 4 senior cabinet ministers as special envoys to each of these countries, and they are already either on their way or in place. And of course, these teams that are there will also supplement all of these efforts that are on the way to assist our citizens in crossing over and also their stay and facilitation in the countries concerned until we can get them on a flight back home.